Welcome to the Getting to Know the Villages event panel today. We're so glad that you made time to learn more about this super important movement. I'm excited about this opportunity to share more about the village movement with you as the director of the Retirement Center, and want to thank Sigurd Mueller for coordinating and bringing everything together today. You're just in for a really wonderful panel discussion. You're going to learn about the village movement, which is which is throughout the country, in California and throughout the country, but we've pulled together some local San Francisco Bay villages to tell you more about what that is. Community and social connections are important, especially as we get older. We lose people. We need to continue to keep our connections. Many of us want to remain in our homes as we age in our neighborhood as long as possible. And the village is a wonderful way to manage that. It started in 1999 in Boston, I believe. It represents an innovative approach to support with other adults living independently. So we put this together for you to teach you a few things. Here are the outcomes of the event: to introduce you to the village movement and to give you an overview of the kind of social engagements and services villages in California provide. Although each village represents a certain unique mix of programs, there are certain unifying characteristics. To share with you benefits and services of the villages, you'll firsthand hear from our panelists, all who are volunteers and members. And we hope this event inspires you to learn more about your local village. This is a nonprofit organizations. They are run from the grassroots, ground up by volunteer older adults. Some has staff, some don't. So you'll learn more about that and find out how you can volunteer and even become a member. A couple of housekeeping items, although we have a great crew here keeping track of the technicalities. Camille and Sigurd are helping, but please mute yourself. There'll be time to ask questions. You can either raise your hand or post your questions in the chat. We have 155 people today, so we need to try to help keep those questions as organized as possible. So use the chat, and we will be recording today's event. So we'll make that available to you afterwards, and we'll also follow up with additional information afterwards. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Carrie Graham, who's generously volunteered to moderate today's panel. She's the Director of Long-Term Services and Supports at the Center for Healthcare Strategies. Prior to this position, she was an adjunct professor at the Institute for Health and Aging at UCSF. She's no stranger to the villages. She's researched as a researcher at UC Berkeley. She led several studies, including a longitudinal study on the outcomes of village membership that include 20 villages across the country. And she has come full circle as she's joined the board of directors of Ashby Village in Berkeley. So Carrie, welcome, and thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here to talk about villages, which, you know, as someone who was formerly a researcher looking into this new issue, the really exciting thing is that villages are almost the first new thing that has emerged in aging services. And there had been so much focus on how organizations do so well if they are consumer driven. Organizations where the people who receive the services are participating in the development of the organization. And a village is, as you said, it's not somewhere to move. It is a neighborhood group of older adults themselves who typically create this organization for themselves. So in the sense of being consumer driven, they're just a really exciting new type of organization. So we are going to have some time today to talk to learn about the village movement. We're going to hear from Charlotte Dixon. And Charlotte Dixon is the executive director of Village Movement California, which is all the different villages in California have gotten together and have created this kind of coalition, and she's going to talk about that. We're then going to bring the village movement to the local level and invite 6 panelists who are members of villages, who volunteer, who use services, who participate in the social activities of villages, to talk about their experiences. And the last part of the event is we want to hear from you all who are on the call, and you'll be able to ask questions in the chat, and we will direct those to the different panelists. So, but first, it's my pleasure to introduce Charlotte Dixon. She, as I said, is the Executive Director of Village Movement California. Prior to joining the Village Movement California, she was the founding director of an organization called Healthy Eating, Active Living Cities Campaign. There was a movement of 400 cities in 5 states to promote policies, programs, and practices to support residents' and employees' health. So, I'm going to hand things over to Charlotte to talk a little bit about the village movement. Thanks, Charlotte.
Great. So hi, everybody. Thank you for coming and spending your lunchtime with us. And my role is to kind of give you the overview of what villages are about before you hear from several leaders of local villages in the Bay Area. So what I want to, and in just a minute, I'll show you some slides, but what I want to say is that Village Movement California and our 45 member villages around the state offer a powerful infrastructure to support older adults during the final third of their lives. And this time of life is filled with promise and with change. Retirement, which you all are either in process of retiring or thinking about it, brings a major shift in identity and social connections. It brings new passions and friendships. A major task of this stage of life is to find purpose and meaning. And it's one that can be really, really challenging if work has provided those essential things to you. And I think in this country, that is often the case. This phase of life brings inevitable changes in the body. And these years are the most rewarding. They can be the most rewarding of a lifetime and also the most challenging. I hear all the time, aging isn't for sissies. So villages are here to support you as you navigate these transitions of aging. Now, our society's narrative is one of independence, right? We do it alone. And our society's narrative is also one of ageism. And it's basically that older adults need to get out of the way, be grateful for their Social Security and Medicare, and stop complaining. And I want to say that Village Movement California's narrative is one: independence requires interdependence. And that's been true across the lifespan, and it's particularly true in the aging journey. You're going to need a lot of help. You're going to give a lot of help. And another part of our narrative is that older adults have much to offer and much to learn. And unlocking those two things improves lives. It improves the lives of older adults, their families, the community, and the society at large. And then the third aspect of our narrative is what Dr. Graham just shared, which is co-creation. Villages are led by older adults themselves, and their desires and needs drives everything that they do. So villages are like canvases. When you join a village, you have an opportunity to add your colors and your brush strokes. You want to learn about Afrofuturism? Create a program about it. You want to share your love of gardening? Join the gardening circle. You need to adapt to hearing loss? Start an interest for members and volunteers who are dealing with hearing loss. So that's my intro, and I have a few slides to share with you. And so we like to talk about how villages transform the experience of aging. And I'm trying to, there we go. Let's see. This is our vision statement. We envision a society where all stages of life offer meaningful opportunities for growth, connection, and joy, where people of all backgrounds and economic means can age with dignity, purpose, and self-determination. This is the village movement. We have 45 villages across our state. We have a little, I think 20, 21 in the Bay Area. And there are 9 villages in formation in different parts of the state. Our footprint is about 10,000 members, intergenerational volunteers, and caregivers. And Village Movement California is really about growing the movement, deepening our impact, and ensuring our sustainability. So what is a village? A village is an intentional, caring community led by older adults that provides connections, support, and expertise to help maintain independence. And it's a membership model. We have dues. The best practice is sliding scale. Each village sets their own dues. And the dues give the villages some operating support, and also really is a way to, find out who's buying into the community. Here are the components. Dr. Graham talked about how the villages are different, but there's some similarities across the state. So we do a lot of social programming and educational opportunities, whether it's learning about, a new passion, or whether it's learning about, what's involved in the aging journey. We have a lot of, for example, programming around brain health. There's a lot of programming and education around creativity. But we're really wanting to help you learn and grow as a person as you age, as you go through this last third of your life. Volunteerism is really the signature of the village movement. We provide opportunities for older adults to volunteer, whether that's in governance, program design, leadership, or whether it's giving support in the areas of what we call social care, transportation, grocery shopping, technology support, the kinds of things that people need to live comfortably and safely in their home. So we have lots of opportunities for people to be volunteers, and also to ask for help from volunteers. And then we offer resources and referrals for when you might need a licensed service, whether it's someone repairing your roof, doing some plumbing work, or maybe you need licensed healthcare in the home because you're coming home from a hospital stay. And all of this, I'm going to sneeze. So excuse me. All of this results in intentional community building, and community is really our foundation, and it's the foundation for healthy aging. So I wanted to just quickly talk about the master plan for aging. You are retiring at an auspicious time. The state and all stakeholders in the aging field, whether that's higher education, business, philanthropy, local government, they're all focused on building systems to support people who are 60 and older. And the master plan is the policy document that's guiding the development of these systems. And these systems are going to be here for our benefit. I just turned 65. I'm thrilled that I'm aging at a time when the master plan for aging is being implemented. And villages support all of these goals: housing, health, inclusion, caregiving, and affording aging. And we have our own initiative, and that's promoting and adapting the village model. And as Dr. Graham said, we're innovative, we're new. And what I want to say to all of you is that all of you, as you think about retiring, are at risk of social isolation and loneliness. Just by virtue of making this transition, you are and social isolation and loneliness are killers. They're killers of the body and of the spirit. And you must pay attention to this risk. This risk is real, and you have a much higher risk of social isolation and loneliness than you do of COVID. I just went to a great presentation by Dr. Carla Parasinato, who is a professor and a geriatrician at UC San Francisco. She went through the data. We are all at much higher risk of social isolation and loneliness than COVID. You are not going to be seeing the people that you saw day in and day out. You're not going to have those 10-second interactions that are proven to support health and well-being. So you have to plan, you have to make a plan to stay socially connected and socially engaged. And the villages are here for you to be able to do that. My last slide is about moderate and middle income older adults in California. These are people, this research is on people 75 into their hundreds, so you may not be there yet, but I want to let you know that moderate and middle income older adults, they are people making $26,000 to $100,000 a year after retirement, are going to feel the pinch of housing and healthcare costs. So villages can help you save your caregiving dollars. The volunteer corps and the services come with a modest membership fee that can save you thousands of dollars over the years, money that you can save for a time when you need that licensed care. So with that, I'm gonna, thank you. Questions, we'll probably wait till the end. Check out our website. There is a contact us link there, and we are happy to connect you to your local village, and we can receive your email and make sure that the village knows that you're interested and that they're ready to take your phone call or your email. So I want to thank you, Carrie. I want to thank you, Dr. Graham. And I want to turn it over to Dr. Graham and the panel.
Charlotte, thanks so much. And you can call me Carrie too.
Okay.
Christina did ask in the chat how to join a village, and you shared that link to the villagemovement.org, where it, I assume, lists different villages. You'd find the one that's closest to your home and reach out to them. And I'm sure the Village Movement California could help do that as well. So
Yeah,
thank you so much, Charlotte. And wait, will you stay for questions, Charlotte, at the end?
Yeah, I'll be here the whole time. I'm going to put that link in the chat, and there is a find your local village right at the top of the page. So
great, it's right there in the chat for people to look and find whatever's their village that is closest to them and in their geographic region. So thank you so much. And hopefully, Charlotte, you'll stay on for the questions
yes,
at
absolutely.
the end.
Yes.
We're now going to meet our panelists, which is going to bring the village concept closer to home. And as you in the audience come up with questions, please put them in the chat. We will get back to them. But I'm going to ask each of our panelists today to introduce themselves very briefly, and then we're going to get into a conversation. So could each of you, we're going to start with Emily, just state your name, what your job title was before you retired, and the village you represent now, and also if you volunteer for the village, if you're a member who participates in the village, or are you both? So that's the question for your introduction. Emily, Sexton, we will start with you.
Okay, I'm Emily. Hi. I retired from the university in UC Berkeley in 2010 as Assistant Vice Chancellor Administration. And I am representing Ashby Village, and I am both a 6-year volunteer and a 1-year member of the village.
Ashby Village, and that's the one that is in Berkeley.
Based in Berkeley, East Bay, west of the hills.
Fantastic. Thank you. Russ, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Russ Ellis. I'm a founding member of Ashby Village. I had the good fortune of retiring early from UC Berkeley in 1994. But I wound up hearing about Beacon Hill Village, and I was a sociologist in the Department of Sociology, talking to architects about people. So I just thought the village idea was a very good idea. And when one of my very industrious neighbors asked me to join, I joined. And I retired from UC Berkeley, where I was in the Department of Architecture, but I spent my last 5 years as Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs.
Fantastic. Pearl, can we move to you and have you introduce yourself, please?
Okay. Hello, everybody, even though we can't see you. I am Pearl Toy. I'm an internist and a hematologist. I'm a professor emeritus at UCSF, where I was chief of the blood bank on Parnassus in San Francisco. I am both a volunteer and a member of Lamorinda Village.
Wonderful. Larry, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Larry Choi, and I don't know if you can see me. I can't see myself, but that's
We
all
can
right.
see you.
We
Okay,
can see you. Yeah.
okay, great. I was the founding president and CEO of the Foundation for California Community Colleges before I retired, and I was also related to Cal. I got my master's and PhD at Cal in astronomy. So I was an astronomer for most of my career. And I am both a volunteer and member of Lamorinda Village.
Thank you. Seymour Packman, will you please introduce yourself?
I was a professor in the Division of Medical Genetics at UCSF. I retired in 2016, and I'm a member of the San Francisco Village.
Fantastic. Judy O'Shea, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Judy O'Shea, and when I retired from biotechnology venture capital, I became an installation artist. I used to say I do art so I don't have to volunteer at the senior center, and now I say I volunteer at the senior center so I don't have to do any more art. And I have been involved with Next Village in San Francisco since its founding in 2009 as a sustaining member. Sustaining member meaning I pay full boat and I don't provide services. I'm volunteering, and I love doing that. I encourage that. It's an absolutely marvelous way to stay involved in your community.
All right. Thank you all so much. So we have a great question in the chat, which is what's the difference between a volunteer and a member? And I just want to remind everybody, here's the cool thing about villages. You can join, and when you join as a member, you can volunteer. You can volunteer like to sort of help run the organization. You can volunteer also to do this member-to-member help, helping someone, driving someone, helping someone by helping take out their garbage, various things to do sort of member-to-member help, or volunteering to run a book group, or volunteering to help with the administration of the village. You can do that. A lot of villages also have people who are just volunteers. They haven't joined yet, but they're volunteers who do that kind of thing as well. So you can be a member who volunteers. Then, you know, there's also opportunities to engage in the village in terms of the social aspect. Attend book groups, attend lectures, go on exercise group, hiking, that sort of thing. So there's sort of the social aspect of it. And then there's the aspect of receiving services. Let's say you just came out of the hospital and you do need someone to drive you somewhere, or if you need someone to help you with some tasks around the home that you can't do yourself. So there's this sort of volunteering and social engagement and receiving help that people can do at all different times or stages in the village. So it all kind of blends together. But what I ask, what you let's start with Emily. So Emily, what has been your experience with volunteering for the village?
Well, actually, like many people at Ashby Village, I volunteered for 5 years before I became a member. And volunteers can be any age. We have about half as many volunteers as members. We have 400 members and 200 plus volunteers. And I just got a statistic today that floored me. 22,000 hours were donated to Ashby Village last year by volunteers. So I went 5 years as a volunteer before I felt like I need to pay my dues and join this wonderful organization. But I started out walking down the length of Solano Avenue. I was younger then, to promote the fact that Ashby Village 6 years ago moved to a new location 1 block north of Solano at Calusa. I was inviting business people to come to an open house. And so I moved from that to doing other things, to doing strategic planning. I did a complete about face, but it was a long while before I felt like, because you get so much as a volunteer, you can attend all the social activities, you can, join lots of different groups and participate. It took me 5 years before I decided I really need to do this. So that's how I started. Do you want me to go on, or do you want me to?
No, I think that's great. You see that a lot of people are looking for opportunities to volunteer. They come to the village as a volunteer. They start participating in some of the other things like social engagement and then decide, I want to be a member. So I think that's a great and interesting path. Russ, how about you?
Well, when I think volunteering and the way we define it is doing something for others, specifically, as Emily mentioned, and we mentioned earlier, shopping for people, helping them with gardening and so forth. Well, as a founding member, one of the ideas I had right at the beginning was tapping into people's creativity. That's not exactly volunteering, but it turned out to be pretty good because I actually got some pretty fancy local photographers to be the jurors, which excited a lot of people. And we had wonderful submissions to this photo show that a tremendous number of people participated in. And then we had a show at a local gallery, which went extremely well. So that led me on to be involved in other creativity activities in the organization. But that's as a member. So I actually haven't volunteered to go drive somebody somewhere, that sort of thing. But I feel like I've been volunteering to the organization.
No, absolutely. I think this idea that you're volunteering to bring this, to create this engagement with creativity among your peers, that's certainly a form of volunteerism, but also this opportunity to create what you were passionate about. There's not that many organizations where you can say, I want to be a part of this and I want to create something. I want to start a new program. I want to help out with that.
Yes, and as others have said, in these kinds of situations, you can invent your kind of participation. You can make up stuff and see if anybody's interested, and there will be.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Pearl, can I get you to talk about the contributions you've made to Lamorinda Village?
As a volunteer?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I'm volunteer.
And I think we've established it's kind of squishy, like the
Yeah,
the
and-
volunteer versus member people, it's really about contributions and maybe that's a better word than volunteering.
Okay, first I want to say that quite a few of our Lamorinda Village members are UC Berkeley graduates, like my husband Larry. We also have members who are UC Berkeley retirees, as you might imagine. Examples are Todd Laporte, John Schwartzberg, Tom Rundle, David Aka, and other people you might have heard of or know on campus. I'm a UC retiree myself at UCSF, and we welcome you people who are attending this, and you and your spouses to consider joining Lamorinda Village if you now live in Lafayette, Moraga, or Orinda. So going to what you asked, to answer what you asked, volunteering. Yeah. First, I want to say that our leaders are active volunteers. Our founder, Ruth, and our current president, Sharon, recently volunteered to deliver free food to our low-income members in Lafayette. And they enjoyed it. Both, when I say they, both our members as well as our leaders, Ruth and Sharon. So they set a very good example. In terms of me as a volunteer, I focused on wellness for our members in 3 areas: wellness and socialization, health, and art. And what I mean by that is I was interested in volunteering in, for example, social wellness. What does that mean? It just means that I started the women's group because
Fantastic.
there wasn't one. There was only a men's group. So that's my contribution to social wellness. Second, health wellness, which I'm interested in. I was the leader early on for creating our end of life series of Zoom talks about the needed documents that we would need at our end of life. Kind of pretty sober, but the speakers were great. And we have it all recorded for all our members. So that was satisfying, very much so. After that, I also organized Zoom talks on health and wellness by selecting and inviting speakers, mostly my colleagues that I know at UCSF, as well as UC Berkeley faculty. And also, speakers who are our members themselves, and speakers who are family members of our members. That turned out to be really successful because it lets us know more about the family of our members. It's like, if we don't know anything about our families, it's just us. You don't get the whole picture of the village members. So that was very nice. And thirdly, I'm interested in art and worked on sharing beautiful music and beautiful flowers. I started the weekly minutes of music that are short recordings of music played by members and or their families. Another member started a very successful in-person singing get-together. So we think music is an art that is beautiful and enjoyable. We also share weekly a photo of a beautiful ikebana flower arrangement made by a very talented member. And I have to say, she didn't volunteer herself. I just knew about her. And I said, could you share us with a group? And she's very modest, but she's sharing one picture a week, and it's always gorgeous. So it's volunteering has been a great joy. So I will now let Larry talk about the same topic.
Yeah, and Pearl, what I love about what you talked about with contributing to your village, you're an oncologist, hematologist.
I'm not
And
on.
what you're contributing,
A big difference.
and you're contributing is art and music and flower arranging. It's wonderful that you're able to, develop and contribute in different ways. So it's great. And Larry, can you just briefly talk about some things that you've contributed to your village?
Okay, I'll talk a little about. I'm going to view it from a different perspective because I did volunteering in a very different way. We joined Lamorinda Village when it began in 2015, although we did not, like Russ, participate in the initial discussions about Lamorinda Village. But we joined right at the beginning, thinking it was a really good idea. And it's been 8 years now. I joined the Lamorinda Village Board in January of 2018, and I became president of Lamorinda Village in late 2019. And I've served for 3 years until last November. So I was president. I started thinking that we would have a nice time. We were sort of settled, and 4 months later, COVID hit. So it was an interesting introduction to my presidency. COVID was an unexpected opportunity for Lamorinda Village. We began several new free services, including home shopping for both our members and for local residents who were not members. Since then, we have done over 3,000 shopping trips for the community. In January 2021, we did the first drive-in COVID vaccination clinic in the state for our members and community seniors, and which we gave shots to about 600 people. And we've continued with regular vaccination clinics working with the county. As a result of this, we doubled our membership to over 200 members. And because of a major increase in donations, we were also able to reduce our membership dues by 50%. So our members get a real bargain belonging to Lamorinda Village. This past year, the city of Lafayette gave us an ongoing grant to enroll low-income seniors, and we've from Lafayette, and we've added over 50 new low-income seniors into our membership. So we actually now have over 270 members of Lamorinda Village.
Wonderful.
A local church foundation has given us a similar grant for low-income seniors in Moraga. So we have, for 2 of our cities, we have ability to, I think, $5 a month they pay. So it's
wonderful. Thank you.
And our funding, yes. I'll just finish with, we do have another Cal connection that Pearl mentioned, John Schwartzberg, who's past president of the UC Berkeley Maritime Association, and some of you know John, and he's a member of our board. And finally,
so great example of your contribution really being a lot of board, administration, leadership of the village in a lot of different ways. So thanks for that.
I'll finish up. I also serve on the board of the National Village to Village movement.
Oh, great.
Village Network, it's called.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities there. Seymour Packman from San Francisco Village. Can you tell us a little something about your contributions to San Francisco Village? And actually, there have been a lot of questions about where villages are. And just to reiterate, a village is an organization of people living in their own homes. It's not somewhere you move. And there usually is an office, but it's more what cities do they cover in terms of who can join. So Lamorinda, as they said, is Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda.
And let me add one more. We do also serve Rossmore. which
Oh,
is
wonderful. Great.
Walnut Creek.
Ashby Village covers 6 different cities, including Berkeley, Oakland, Richmond. It spans from Richmond to Oakland, El Cerrito, Kensington, and Albany. So Seymour Packman from San Francisco Village. Can you tell us a little bit about your contributions to San Francisco Village?
I think that just to take off a bit from what you just described, that the village organizations may be located in these various cities or districts, but the village itself is a group of people, a collection of people, of neighborhoods, people in neighborhoods, and people who are working together and speaking together and getting together during the pandemic, mostly by Zoom, and simply talking with one another and engaging in activities with one another. So it's really a set of personal connections that are located in these various cities, and it's the personal connections that really have been our main focus. We became members. My wife and I became members through a personal referral, and very recently, a few years ago, and our main activity. And I'm not sure I like the word volunteer, but our main activities in main contribution have been personal. We're both, my wife is also a UCSF faculty member. She's a psychologist. And because of our background, we've been able to, I think, effectively offer advice and support and help, assistance, referrals to the to our circle, our San Francisco Circle, Sunset Circle, which is a neighborhood group within the San Francisco Village to which we belong. And it's that kind of assistance at this time of life to our neighbors that involve things like grief, sadness, end of life issues, pet loss issues. My wife is an expert on pet loss, and I think that these personal contributions are very important to the people that we've connected with, that we've managed to connect with. And because of our, I hate to use the word connections, but because of our connections, we've been able to assist people and direct people to resources related to health and issues of that sort. We have given talks in terms of specific contributions. I suppose we have given talks to the groups. We've begun to organize a book group, and so there are specific contributions. But I would emphasize that for us, it's been at the level of a neighborhood, which we actually would not have been able to accomplish simply on a one-on-one basis with the people that we already knew. These are people in our neighborhood area in San Francisco, in most instances, that we have never met before. But now they're our friend, they are our friends and our neighbors. We meet weekly, we talk about things, and in a way that's actually very personal and very effective and very moving in many instances. And I think that it's the village that has brought us together with this circle of friends.
Thank you so much, Seymour. That is a really great testimony to the contributions. I like the word contribution too. Judy O'Shea, can you tell us a little bit about Next Village and how you've participated there?
Yes, Next Village, we are, this sort of nexus is in North Beach, in North Beach, Telegraph Hill, sliding slightly up Russian Hill, actually a lot. The marina along the Barbary Coast, as you might know it. We have members in Nob Hill and Pacific Heights, but the nexus is really in North Beach, and where we have a little office, a wonderful executive director, and a very busy board, President Janet Crane, and her staff that really are very hands-on, helping people in our neighborhoods do everything from socialization to shopping to decluttering their housing, making sure they're safe, saving someone who is literally saving someone's life in one situation. A lot of attention is paid to socialization pre-COVID and certainly during COVID, that including film groups and book groups and French and Spanish and conversation groups. I understand there's a brand new yoga class going on down at the athletic club that I don't know about, so I've got to talk to Janet about that. So it's a very diverse organization. As I said, I've been a volunteer. I don't mind that that moniker at all. I feel like it differentiates a bit, but since the founding in 2009, roughly, and I'm one of the people that took people to doctor's appointments and took them grocery shopping and carried their groceries for them, and often sat and had a cup of tea with them and held their hand while they could talk about how they missed their children who were too busy and so forth. And I learned very quickly that sometimes I was the only person they saw that week. So that gets you where it's very important. And that was the pre-COVID part of my volunteering. And there are literally hundreds of people that volunteer to do this. It's not just me, it's my little corner of the world. Then along came COVID, and Next, as some of the other villages did, just jumped into the breach. Jackie's staff, the primary activity at that point in time was getting seniors onto Zoom, which took a lot of technical help, as you probably all know. And all of these meetings and so forth went to Zoom. And as you said, it was actually in an odd way a gift, because here we all are, right? And at that time, I co-hosted a French conference. I facilitated, I'm not a professor in any way, shape, or form, a French conversation group for over 2 years, which is now, as COVID has waned, morphed into an in-person conversation group like the Spanish group and Italian group that are so popular that they're filling up neighborhood cafes with people speaking various levels of French, which is great fun. I think for me, the socialization part of it, I cannot emphasize long. It starts out as being part of the group that's organizing and doing this and being a volunteer and all of that, because you know when you grow up, you're going to need those services. But an important part for me was making the decision to age in my home was facilitated by knowing Next was there, because I would have probably, I don't know what I would have done. My children would not have let me stay in my home as I am going to age if they didn't know that there was going to be socialization. So I can't overemphasize the importance of that. If those of you out there are thinking about the Next stage of your life, how are you going to be socialized? You don't have kids in school anymore. You don't have your occupational friends anymore. Things have fallen away. And this is a group that can help you in an organization structure. I mean, I'm not talking about our specific group. The village should be close to you and in your neighborhood, as a way to stay socialized as Carrie says, that last third of your life, which is getting close to the last 40% of my life. So again, I want to hats off to Jackie Zimmerman, our indomitable executive director, who has developed our organization into just an amazing group of people. And Janet, of course.
Judy, thanks so much. It really, you've done so much for the people in your village, and I appreciate you talking about how villages were really a lifeline for a lot of people during COVID. I actually attended a dissertation defense last week on someone who studies villages and talking about what villages actually expanded during COVID, because it was such an important lifeline for so many people. And before we get into a lot of questions, I'm not going to ask each of you this, but if one of you or two of you want to raise your hand. We've talked about the contributions you've made. What have you received? Judy talked about how the social engagement and support and just knowing that it was there was something she got that sort of allowed her to really make that decision to age in her own home and stay in her own home, to convince her children she had support so they wouldn't bug her about moving. Do any of you want to just sort of raise your hand and talk about what you have received from the village? And I'm going to start with Russ. And then we'll go to Pearl.
Sure. My wife and I were both founding members of Ashby Village, and we didn't need the services for a long time, but we were active. And my wife was a type 1 diabetic, and she had a terrible fall and was in intensive care and rehab. And Ashby Village turned out to be a wonderful source for in-home care. They had done they researched all vendors anyway, so that you don't get ripped off, which is a really valuable service, by the way. Anyway, so I got a wonderful small new firm in Oakland that was very helpful with my wife. And I had to stop being active in Ashby Village because of my wife's dementia. The onset of her dementia changed my life pretty radically and for the following 5 years. And she died last August. And oddly enough, as I get around to things like decluttering, making the changes that I need to make in my life, Ashby Village has just been spectacular. I've had teams come in who have made it so easy for me to make some of the hard decisions, and I can't thank them enough. It's made it demystified the overwhelming thing of all the stuff we had. I can't believe how much stuff we had. And so they walked me into it, and now it's a bit easier to conceive. I'm serious. Even the term decluttering, it's great. Anyway, that's been extremely helpful.
Thank you so much, Russ. And you mentioned something that we haven't talked too much about, is that a lot of villages have this referral service. So just to be clear, when you join a village, that does not include home health care coming in, but they can connect you to trusted sources of care. So villages are often a really good connector to some of that paid help that you would be seeking in these unfortunate situations, like after a fall, or if you're a caregiver, that they can refer you to some great sources of help in your neighborhood, even though they're not, or in your region, even though they don't necessarily provide that kind of hands-on in-home care.
Right,
So
right.
thank you for mentioning the referral service.
Sure.
Pearl, I'm going to ask you to speak about something you've gotten out of the village, and then we're going to go to questions in a couple of minutes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Regarding what we get from the village, I thought I could tell you what we do every day. That is a gift from the village. Every week, on Monday morning, we get free meditation class. And a member was interested in meditation and read an article about a good teacher in Lafayette. And so I contacted the person and invited him to join Lamorinda Village. And he became our weekly meditation teacher for free. It's really great. Now, in the afternoon on Mondays, we have free chair yoga. And the person is a very knowledgeable member. Marbra is great for yoga for seniors. And then on Tuesday, we also have free what we call stronger memory. One of our members found out that's important or helpful if we regularly read out loud. Read out loud. It's important to write in cursive with a pencil, and to do math at your own level. So these small things have been apparently studied and are helpful in keeping our memory. So we do that every Tuesday. And then and also in the class, which is relatively small, we get to know each other. And for example, one of our members had a fall. And what happened was our executive director, Catherine, went to her house, fixed her computer so that she can rejoin our meetings. And another member went to the member's house after her fall to provide her favorite foods. So these are things that just happen and are really gifts and joys of the village. Now going on to Wednesday. No, Wednesday we don't do anything for. On Thursday we have exercise. Then actually it's twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday. On Fridays, we usually have free Zoom talks by good speakers. And I usually try to, well, they're very good. And on Sunday, we get a weekly update newspaper by email. And that email has events in the coming week, wellness, and at the very bottom, what I treasure, the wellness in art, the minute of music to listen to, and Ikebana to see. And then monthly, the women's group and men's group occur. There also is a book club. And then finally, our Dr. Mike Kern sends emails to all of us about COVID updates every month. So
Great.
What we get is we enjoy events in our village every day of the week, except Saturday.
Fantastic. That's
Okay.
a great demonstration of what someone actually gets out of the village. You can choose how much you want to participate in. And it seems to me that probably, as Pearl was saying, most of the things that she participates in are things that were organized by members
Right,
of the village.
for free.
I want to move on now and make sure that our audience, we have 161 people in the audience, and I want you to first, if you have, click on the chat below and type your question in, and then I will make sure our panelists get that question. But one of the first questions I'm seeing here is, again, this sort of confusion of like, where is the village and where do you get services? And I want to be really clear that a village might have an office somewhere, but that should not, they cover certain areas. So they might, you know, meet at a park or have an online book group. They can send volunteers out to help people in their homes. So they cover certain cities, and I'm just to correct, I mentioned Ashby Village 6 cities, it's actually 7 cities. They also do Emeryville. And so it's all over the place, but there's this concept that Seymour talked about, which was a neighborhood group. So villages that are pretty big, like Ashby Village or San Francisco Village, often have these neighborhood groups so that you could get to know people in your neighborhood, even though the village covers several cities. And Seymour, I was wondering if you could say something about how the neighborhood groups work in your village.
Right. There is a central office, as you said, and there the organization can make the referrals that or provide the assistance that the tangible assistance that people have spoken about. But in addition, there are self-organized neighborhood groups. And so leaving aside whether it's Zoom or in person or whatever, neighborhood groups then are just what they sound like. They're in neighborhoods, whether it's the Sunset in the Richmond, in the case that was spoken about before on Russian Hill or Telegraph Hill, and these groups are depending on the inclinations of the people, will get together in person or by Zoom weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, whatever the individuals prefer. And it's as if you had a group of people from your region or neighborhood invited to your home, your living room, for a chat. Just talk about anything that you'd like to talk about. There can be some formal schedule that's drawn up, such as each person giving their biography or people talking about a topic that is preset. But you have the choice of joining any neighborhood you wish to join, any neighborhood group you wish to join, and this is the personal connection that you have with other village members who happen to be in an area in which you live, or even an area adjacent to which you live. We're in the Sunset. There is an inner Sunset, an outer Sunset, a Richmond, and there's nothing preventing you from joining the conversations in any of those groups. And I would this is distinguished from, and in addition to, the services and the resources that the village provides. The word village may be misleading. The resources and services that the organization provides, whether it's having on retainer a person who owns a construction company, in our case, a woman who is director of her construction company, and a contractor who came into our house and made multiple revisions and repairs to our house of a safety nature, importance for safety. And this is the kind of thing that enables one to live in one's home. there are connections that the organization / village has to services for seniors, and so that you don't have to go to the internet and randomly choose whether it's a tax preparer, a senior citizens placement company, whatever you might need, medical services. And so there are two very distinct components of the organization / the village. The centralized resource for senior citizens and the personal connections that enable you not only to live in your own home, but in many cases, at least in our neighborhood, to live alone. And this is very difficult. And to live alone and be able to call any member of our little circle if they need immediate assistance for something, whether it's healthcare, whether it's referral to a specific subspecialist physician, whatever it is. Personal relationships, a central agency called the village that can help you negotiate the needs that you have as a senior citizen, whether it's medical, whether it's technical advice, computer advice. We had a number of people who needed instructions and help with their computer system at home. The village has connections to sources that they have already evaluated and selected that they can refer you to, and these are reliable and these are accessible sources. That's the difference between, I think, the village as simply the name of an organization and the personal connections of your people in your neighborhood whom you have not already met.
Yeah.
Since you don't.
I think this referral to vetted vendors or trusted services, as Russ was mentioning with finding the right home health agency, is a really valued or talked about part of Village. And there was a question, Judy, I want to ask you, because you participated in providing a lot of services. So someone asked in the chat, if you needed help, how in Next Village San Francisco would you ask for help? What's that process look like in Next Village?
Well, Next has an office and they have a staff that can respond. And I would call them on the phone and say, help Anna or Janet or whoever answered the phone. I mean, it's not a 911 call. Obviously, that's a different thing. But if someone needs some home health care on a temporary basis, what do I do about that? Or and they may not know the answer to my specific question, but they know people who know them. It becomes like we used to do at work. It becomes your extended network that reaches out into a broader network to help you find the answer to a lot of questions. Some of them are obvious, technical help, decluttering. I really love that one. Safety stuff, my porch light's burned out and I can't see to put my key in, and I can't climb a ladder to change the light. Couldn't you send someone out to help me? Or my mattress needs flipping and I can't do it by myself. And it's those kinds of questions, up to and including questions of what do I do with my husband?
Yeah. So in Next Village San Francisco, if you need help with any of these things, you would call the main office.
Yes.
Any other villages have different processes for requesting help, like an online? Larry?
Yeah, we have a system, and I think Next Village and uses it also, which is called Helpful Village. And you can go online if you're capable and just request the service, and it automatically goes in a very sophisticated queue, because the message actually gets sent out, the need, directly to the volunteers who volunteer for that particular service. And the first one who grabs it, they get a message saying, we now need a person to go shopping on Tuesday afternoon at whatever food store, and if the first one who grabs it automatically gets the message. They connect with each other. So you can do it that way, or you can call. A lot of people who are in Lamorinda Village, I'm sure in the other villages, don't feel comfortable with going online, do almost anything, but certainly to actually do requests online. So most people call. I think
Yeah.
that's a common way.
Yeah.
I would like to add one thing that both Seymour and Judy referred to indirectly, which is in terms of getting help. But this is a slightly different take on it. And that is that as we're aging, and especially in this generation, when I was young, if there was a person who was 90 years old, they were, wow, this person's 90 years old. I gotta go and see who this strange person is who made it to 90. Now, lots of friends of mine are 90 years old. But the problem is, we're the first generation, as our friend Todd Laporte, who is, I don't know if you'll mind, who's one of your colleagues at Cal, is 94. And he talks about the fourth generation, and that we never had really a fourth generation. And in fact, now is the time when we have a fourth generation. So we can't learn from previous generations. How do you live a healthy life when you're in your 90s, or even in your late 80s? You know, we used to have 70. That was it. You made it. Okay. But now all our members are 70. You know, it's getting to 70 or even 50. And so that is something we are now sharing with each other. How do you make it when you're 90 years old? How does your life change? And a funny story, but it's true, is that we've had several times when we have our discussions and said, my doctor has retired. Now, in many cases, they now have to be looking for a doctor who might be in their 40s, because they don't want them to retire before they're gone. But this becomes a big question, because we normally wouldn't make it far enough for our doctors would never retire, because we wouldn't be
Live
around
that long, yeah.
But now we're living into our 80s and 90s, and we have a lot of people who's, my doctor's only 73. Finally decided, or she's finally decided to hang it up. Who do I get? So I think this aging produces this opportunity of sharing. How do we age how do you live well when you're 100 years old?
Yeah.
And we're going to get lots of people who are going to be in their 90s and even
Larry, this is such a great point, and I know that Ashby Village has support or discussion groups for people in their 70s, people in their 80s,
Yes.
by these generations, which I think is so helpful. And you're absolutely right. I also think that there's people in their 70s who are still caregivers. Has anyone had the experience, Russ, you mentioned your experience being a caregiver, and do any of the villages have support for people who are caregiving for a spouse or a parent or even a child, that, this day and age, people are caregiving at all sorts of ages. So what kind of support do villages have for caregivers?
I think Emily may have more information about that than I do. The years I used the village when my wife was not doing well, I just did the work. But I believe there are people who do come and sit with people who need help. And as a matter of fact, I'm certain of it. I didn't happen to use that. Emily, do you know?
Like a respite kind of care.
Yeah.
Emily?
I'll make it short. ongoing caregiving is not the role of the villages, and they make that pretty clear. Having a resource list to refer you to people that can do that, and well, specifically companies that can provide people that can do that, is certainly something they would do. I just wanted to mention, because it's a related topic, briefly, I know we're running close on time. I am part of a new special interest group called Women in Their 70s. And interest groups can be started anytime someone has an interest, other people are interested in joining them, and someone's willing to take on the responsibility. And this particular one is great because the 70s is a decade where you start off feeling very strong and traveling all over the world, as I did, and you end up worrying about your next decade. And so in this group, it's teaching me how to live, we're discussing things like, where do you get caregivers? Do you want to live somewhere in a residential facility later? Are you lonely is our topic this week, and why, and can we help? It's really very interesting. And it's just one of those things that comes with villages. I'm sure that it's in all the villages, where if you have a group that wants to talk about something, they can do it. If they can find a member that will pull it together.
Fantastic. And I'm seeing in the comments, next village just doing a Zoom for anyone tomorrow on navigating dementia care. Ashby Village has an ongoing support group for caregivers. And I just know that that's something that, we are this day and age with as Larry mentioned, the long life, we're caregiving for kids and parents for a long time in our life. So Judy had something to say too.
One quick comment. One of the many things I've learned from Next is that 40% of caregivers die before the person they're caretaking for.
Wow.
And so the Next Village program that they're having, actually, I think it's tomorrow or Tuesday, tomorrow. And I would encourage all the villages who are represented here, including Next, to have an ongoing caregiving for caregivers, because it's really hard.
Yeah, and it causes health problems, right? Physical stress, and people who are caregiving, especially for dementia, we're talking about isolation and loneliness. It isolates you. Russ talked about how his life completely changed. I'm a dementia caregiver for my father. It changes your life, and that isolation that can be so hard on our health and our mental health. One thing I know, we have about 6 more minutes, and I want to bring up one more thing. Villages also, people volunteer for each other and help each other and do all of this, but villages actually have a hand in trying to change the communities. I know that Ashby Village has a sort of a political action group, and I'm wondering if any of our panelists want to talk about how you or your village works to sort of create intentional communities and work outside of the village in the community to change things in whatever way. We call that civic engagement.
I can talk about that.
Well, Ashby Village has a climate change group.
Yeah, I know that people have been reading books and learning about climate change with younger climate change. With millennials, I think there was a group sort of with the village members and millennials sort of talking about these things.
And acting.
Yeah, Lamorinda Village, actually, we got a significant gift a couple of years ago, which to see whether we could help expand to create new villages in our area. So we're working on that, so that we're spreading the word. We're lucky in the sense that right now, both of our assemblyman and state senator live in one of our communities, and we know them both. So that helps making the connection with your political leaders is also something that that people can do, because it can influence legislation with respect to seniors. There's a lot of things, as Charlotte mentioned, there's a lot of things going on, and it's very helpful.
And political leaders certainly know that older people vote.
Yeah.
They want to hear from you. I see that Charlotte has raised her hand.
Well, I was going to mention that, you know, there is the elder action example at Ashby Village. Ashby Village, San Francisco and Ashby Village are doing a lot around climate. And I think many of the other villages, like Pasadena Village, they are constantly out in the community providing support. They're particularly interested in building bridges with the African American community and the LGBT community in their area. So they're constantly building relationships and supporting other organizations in meeting those organizations' goals. I think many villagers want to be involved in civic engagement as well as the community building. And it just takes, you know, some interested members to say, you know, I really think we should go and volunteer at the senior centers, or I really know that this school is having this event and they need some people. And again, I think it's that idea of having the central organization that can help plug in the members and volunteers to additional activities. So thank you, Carrie, for raising that, because I think it's really, really important. And when we talk about intergenerational work, you know, there's a lot of talk now about we really need to desegregate the age groups and the generations. And so I think the civic engagement is a wonderful opportunity to connect with younger people. Oh yeah, age friendly. Yeah, that's important. AARP and the state of California has a number of age friendly initiatives going on, and several of our villages have received, are part of grants to get involved in municipal and county policy. And what we know about age-friendly cities is that age-friendly cities are actually livable cities that are also have the amenities that younger children need. So wheelchairs and strollers are and walkers are in the same orbit. So enough said. Thank you, Carrie.
And we have about 1 minute. Seymour, you had raised your hand earlier, and I just want to give you the last word here in terms of advice and, you know, things that you wanted people to know about the value of the village.
The last word.
Well, you had to sort of raise your hand earlier, and
no,
I think it was during our
for the last word,
retiring doctors conversation, but I want to make sure you had the last word.
Yeah, I think that this is an there are no, if you join a village, we joined simply because we were referred by someone, a friend, and we knew nothing about the village until we joined and met with different neighborhood groups to see to see whom we connected with. But our lives have actually, my wife and I joined together, and our lives have actually been helped greatly on a practical level. Things that have been mentioned, like referrals to agencies, referrals. You used a very good phrase, vetted vendors. Which we would have taken us hours to find, and that's been fine. And we've had the museum tours and the walks and the social things, formal social things, and that's all well and good. But I think it's the people that we have connected with that for us has been very, very important, because we are of that group now. And many, and we've received some advice and help and comfort from these people. And I think these are people who are afflicted with, in many cases, with grief and loss of life issues, loneliness, all of the things that have been mentioned, and the organization / the village is not a geographical place. It's an organization that is multifaceted and allows individuals to interact with and help individuals. When you join, there are no commitments. You're not committing to a certain number of weeks a year, or days a week, or months a year of activities. You're actually you actually will. We've received more than we've given, I think, and much of what we've received has been personal,
Thank you,
on a
Seymour.
personal level, and as well as referral to resources, and so I think that this is a very innovative concept. In fact, I like the word concept for this kind of
The
group.
village concept.
The village concept.
So
It's not a place. It's not a geographical entity. It's a
Yeah.
concept. And I think that all of the things that have been mentioned would be useful to some people, and there's no age requirement. I don't know. We're talking about old people. It's not all old people. There are some, and I can't tell ages anymore. But
Yeah.
there are younger people in the group.
Yeah,
And,
Seymour, thank you. And we have 1 minute left. I want to thank Emily, Russ, Judy, Seymour, Pearl, and Larry for sharing their meaningful contributions, what they've gotten out of this process, and now handing it back to Carrie Sweeney to close us out. Thank you all so much.
You're
Okay.
muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. So thank you so much, Carrie, for moderating. I'm just so pleased that so many people showed up. This is the village movement is special. Our system is fragmented as it comes to aging services. And far as I can tell, for staying in your home at an affordable and much more than just services, but community and giving back yourself, and it being sort of reciprocal in that way. Villages are the solution, and they're one of the most important solutions we have right now. Not to put so much on their shoulders, but there's a lot of help that is needed, and thank goodness for these programs. I'd also like to thank Pat Holm and Emily Sexton, and our staff member Sigrid, for organizing the event, and Camille for technical support. And finally, a big thank you to the executive directors, some of whom have been actively answering your questions, and for participating in helping promote this. Bab Freiberg, and Suyin Bickner, Catherine Ishizu, Kate Hopke, and Jessica De Silva, and Jacqueline Jones. And thank you all for joining. I'll say goodbye. We'll just log off. Take care, everyone. Thanks again.